Hi, George. Welcome to Only5mins.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
George, you're currently working on several green hydrogen projects. So maybe you can tell us how long it may take for green hydrogen to become competitive with gray hydrogen or to become commercially viable.
Well, a lot depends on the incentives. So there is a market for hydrogen here, almost 100 million tons, but it's all gray. So we do have a first low-hanging fruit, converting all this gray, dirty hydrogen into green. But doing that on a global scale is very challenging for many reasons, including the existing capacity of electrolyzer manufacturers and local schemes and incentives globally. Of course, in the US, we have a very big incentive, the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, that creates a very strong dynamic. Something will happen in Europe for sure, but it's still in the making, I would say.
How much the cost of solar electricity should drop in order to make green hydrogen more competitive?
Yeah, it's all about the so-called LCOH, all levelized cost of hydrogen, right? Which is rather complex calculation, but it has three main factors. One of them is the LCOE, levelized cost of electricity. And obviously, when we want to have green hydrogen, we need clean electricity, and that is chiefly renewable solar and wind, which are variable. And then the second factor is the utilization rate. So for how long this expensive system will be working or idling based on nameplate capacity. And we all know that solar and wind are not, they don't have a big capacity factor. So maybe if they're combined and there is a good location, maybe we can reach 50%. So 30 to 50% is the range where various developers are expecting from their projects. And then here comes CapEx. So if you have something that is expensive and that it's idling half of the time, it's basically like paying double the CapEx. So it's not a matter of LCOE, it's a matter of having everything in place. So have a good location where you can feed renewables, or even nuclear, because as we saw yesterday, France made it, and we have nuclear or pink hydrogen being counted as carbon-free. Now that's great, because if you can have 100% utilization, the LCOH goes really, really low. So it's complicated, right? I would say 2 to 3 cents. 2 to 3 cents is a good range.
And which are the most suitable locations for green hydrogen? I
would say locations where renewable clean energy can be available at a very low capacity, a very high capacity factor and low cost. So obviously around, let's say, the solar belt around the globe, or even at very high wind locations like offshore wind, for example, has a very high capacity factor. So that's a very good prime candidate for green hydrogen.
So going back to prices, what kind of green hydrogen prices we may expect for the next 5 years?
Yeah, so the general consensus is that we need something in the range of $2 to $3 per kilogram, because when fossil gas was cheap, it was around $1.5 to $2 per kilogram, and then it went a lot higher. Now it's still very high, but this might change in the future, might come down again. So generally, this is the range that is expected to be reached in a few years from now, if everything is in place. So low cost electrolyzers, low capex, low LCOE, and decent capacity factors.
In order to produce green hydrogen, do you think the industry should focus more on further reducing solar power costs, or rather reducing costs of electrolyzers?
Solar is cheap enough. I mean, it will get cheaper, but it's already very, very cheap. As I said, 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour is something that has been achieved in several places around the world. And also for wind, maybe in some cases this is also feasible. It's coming very fast if it's not today. So the next point is, I would say, cost, bringing down the cost of electrolyzers, increasing the efficiency as well, but this is not so easy. Definitely bring down the cost. And having enough equipment. We have a big problem right now. And that has to do with the issue of scaling up.
So this is a matter of scale again.
Yes, so that's a very interesting question, because I think there is a misunderstanding. It's not comparable to solar, right? Or even wind. It's a very old technology. And it just happens so that in China, especially, it has a very mature cost and very long history. So there are already pretty low cost systems available from China. And I guess that this will follow in the West as well, from Westerns. But that's for a specific technology that's called alkaline. The PEM technology is way more expensive, chiefly because of the need to use rare, expensive materials. Also rare, that means that it's not scalable, because there's a certain limit to the availability of these materials, such as iridium. So we already have low-cost technology. If we combine it with decent capacity factors and very low-cost renewables, so I think we can achieve these low-cost targets of hydrogen in several locations globally already today.
Time is up, Josh. Thank you for your 5 minutes.
Pleasure. Thank you.